All right, guys, so today we're going to be talking about folklore. So this is our introduction to folklore. First of all, what is folklore? It's based in the traditional beliefs, customs, and stories within a community, and these stories are passed down through the generations orally, meaning they are told by word of mouth. They can also be called tall tales. There is heritage to these stories, and they're not random. Folklore stories are tied to a specific location and usually include a moral. So what's a moral? A moral is a lesson that one should learn from the story. The lesson is especially one concerning what is right or prudent, meaning how one should behave in the world based on the story. This is especially important considering most stories with morals are meant for children to learn what is expected of them in the real world. So folklore has 10 important aspects. First, exaggeration. Second, good versus evil. Third, fantastic beings. Fourth, flat characters. Fifth, magic. Sixth, magic numbers. Seventh, a moral. Eighth, supernatural objects. Ninth, trickster characters. And 10th, personification. So let's go through these. First, we have exaggeration. Exaggeration is a statement that represents something as better or worse than it really is. We also know this as hyperbole in literature. Some examples of this include, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. I haven't seen you in forever. And he was drowning in his tears. So exaggeration comes into play when we talk about character descriptions or in specific situations. For example, the stories of Paul Bunyan. Paul Bunyan was a giant lumberjack described as 8 feet tall and weighing 300 pounds. His adventures center on his size and strength. Even though his clear 8-foot tall description is provided, the images that accompany his folklore will show him as taller than mountains because his size was so important to the stories. Good versus evil. As with many stories with morals, the concept of good versus evil is necessary. This is called a conflict, which we've talked about before. There are 6 different types of conflict in the stories. Character versus self, character versus character, character versus nature, character versus supernatural, character versus technology, and character versus society. So determining this theme of good versus evil can depend on understanding what type of conflict you're witnessing in the story, but they're actually fairly easy to figure out. So we're going to look at the types of conflict. We'll watch a few quick videos to review the 6 types. You should have seen these before in other English classes. For each type of conflict, I'm going to show you a clip to help you understand the basics of the conflict. This will help you later when you need to identify what type of conflict that you're seeing. Character versus self. Here's our first one from The Emperor's New Groove.
You're not just gonna let him die like that.
My shoulder, Angel.
Don't listen to that guy. He's trying to lead you down the path of righteousness. I'm going to lead you down the path that rocks.
Oh, come off it.
You come off it.
You.
You infinity.
Ah.
Listen up, big guy. I got 3 good reasons why you should just walk away. Number 1. Look at that guy. He's got that sissy stringy music thing.
We've been through this. It's a harp, and you know it.
All right. That's a harp. And that's a dress.
Robe.
Reason number 2. Look what I can do.
What does that have to do with anything?
No. He's got a point.
Listen, you guys. You're sort of confusing me, so, be gone. Or, however I get rid of you guys.
That'll work.
So in this video, we see Kronk's dilemma in The Emperor's New Groove. His angel and devil, his good side and his bad side, fight for superiority. This is character versus self, where the conflict is an internal struggle. So next, we have character versus character. Let's watch a scene from Toy Story.
Buzz! Buzz! Ha! You're alive! This is great! Oh! I'm saved! I'm saved! Andy will find you here. He'll take us back to the room, and then you can tell everyone that this was all just a big mistake. Huh? Right? Buddy?
I just want you to know that even though you tried to terminate me, revenge is not an idea we promote on my planet.
Oh, well, that's good.
But we're not on my planet, are we?
No. Okay, come on. You want a piece of me?
So in this video, we see the conflict is character, Woody, versus character, Buzz. The conflict is between two individuals, which causes the tension in the story. So then we have character versus nature.
Hey, it's a cop! Sure, kid. Get the heart to the spiral!
So although we could argue that this is a supernatural conflict, in Moana, they must battle Te Kā, an incarnation of the Mother Nature figure. This would fit the character versus nature conflict. Next, we have character versus supernatural. Now remember, character versus supernatural and character versus nature can sometimes get a little mixed up, especially when you consider what kind of supernatural event you're talking about. So we're going to watch a Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End clip, which involves Calypso. But later in the film, she also causes this huge storm that the characters have to deal with. That storm is a character versus nature conflict, even though it's created by supernatural forces.
Calypso? Release you from your human bonds.
Tears off.
Calypso. When the Brethren Court first imprisoned you, who was it that told them how? Who was it that betrayed you? Name him! Davy Jones.
before you is but a servant, humble and contrite. I have fulfilled my vow. I now ask your favor. Spare myself, me ship, me crew, but unleash your fury upon those who dare pretend themselves your masters or mine.
I'm sure you heard my dog shaking in the middle of that. My apologies. So, character versus supernatural. Throughout this movie, most of the conflict centers around the mythical beings Calypso and Davy Jones, bringing us to the character versus supernatural conflict. Then we have character versus technology. Let's take a look.
How could you be worthy? You're all killers.
Stark, Jarvis.
I'm sorry, I was asleep. I was a dream.
Reboot. Meet your hero. Got a buggy suit.
Terrible noise. And I was tangled in strings. Had to kill the other guy. He was a good guy.
You killed someone?
Wouldn't have been my first call. But down in the real world, we're faced with ugly choices.
Who sent you?
I see a suit of armor around the world. Ultra. In the flesh. Or no, not yet. Not this Christmas. But I'm ready. I'm on mission.
What mission?
Peace in our time.
So in this clip, we see Ultron, a being made solely of technology, turning on the humans that made him. This in and of itself is a mainstay of the character versus technology conflict. Anytime you have artificial intelligence that gets out of control, gets out of hand from its creator, we see that character versus technology conflict showing up. Next, we have character versus society. And we've got a clip from The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Sir, request permission to stop this cruelty.
In a moment, Captain. A lesson needs to be learned here.
Don't be afraid. I'm sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen.
You, gypsy girl, get down at once.
Yes, Your Honor. Just as soon as I free this poor creature.
I forbid it. How dare you defy me?
You mistreat this poor boy the same way you mistreat my people. You speak of justice, yet you are cruel to those most in need of your help.
Silence!
Justice!
So in this clip, we see Esmeralda fighting against society by standing up for Quasimodo. She fights back against societal cruelty and injustice that she sees against her own people, the gypsies, being reflected in how Quasimodo is being treated, and she refuses to back down. So remember, there are 6 types of literary conflict. Character versus self, character versus character, character versus nature, character versus the supernatural, character versus technology, and character versus society. Now let's get back to folklore. Remember those fantastic beings we were talking about. So in folklore, there are fantastical beings. What that means is that there are creatures beyond what we would consider natural. It can also mean that there are characters with fantastic abilities. For example, the werewolf, part man, part wolf. This is a fantastical being. Then we have flat characters. Most of the characters are flat in folklore stories. This means that the characters do not change, grow, or learn over the course of their stories. They don't become better people or learn what their problems are and try to fix them. These types of characters are also called static characters, meaning they stay the same. For example, Scar from The Lion King. Scar does not become a better character over the course of the movie. His motivations never change. He just wants to be king, wants to be the one in charge. Magic. As you would expect, there's a lot of magic in folklore because the impossible can happen with the help of unknown forces. And magic numbers. Magic numbers means a number or a count that appears over and over again in the text. For example, the numbers 3 and 7 show up in folklore quite often, such as the 3 billy goats gruff, the 3 blind mice, or the 3 little pigs. That number 3 shows up a lot in folklore. So it's numbers or counts that are showing up over and over again. Then there's the moral. Now, we've already talked about what a moral is earlier in the slideshow. But remember, it's the lesson that you're intended to learn from the story. Then we have supernatural objects. Supernatural objects are items with power. For example, the pen that becomes a sword in Percy Jackson. The pen itself is highly significant when it becomes the sword that helps him defeat all the conflict that he faces. Trickster characters. Trickster characters are exactly what they sound like. Characters that exist solely to trick another character into doing something. These characters can be evil, but they can also just be agents of chaos, hoping to cause some mischief. You should have already read one trickster myth from the Native American legend, so you should be familiar with this idea. Some examples of tricksters that we can talk about include the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, the Roadrunner from the Wile E. Coyote cartoons, and, of course, Loki of Asgard from the Marvel Universe and from Asgardian mythology. Then we have personification. Just like with the origin and creation myths, folklore includes a lot of personification. Personification is the attribution of a personal nature or human characteristics to something non-human, or it's the representation of an abstract quality in human form. Some examples of this that we've seen fairly recently include Lightning McQueen from Cars, Olaf, who likes warm hugs, from Frozen, and of course, literally everyone in Zootopia. So remember, the 10 aspects of folklore as we move forward with these stories. To remind you, exaggeration, good versus evil, fantastic beings, flat characters, magic numbers, amoral, supernatural objects, trickster characters, and personification. We're going to look at these aspects as they show up in folklore as we move forward.